Hi, I'm Bob Price, and this is Trevor, and we're still motoring
Again.
Right,
Today what we thought we would talk about is movie cars, TV cars, cop cars, that kind of thing that you've seen on the screen while it's the big one or the wee one. So I'm going to ask you a question. Can you name many TV cars or movie cars?
Well, the first one that springs to mind is the Volvo P1800, driven by the Saint.
And who acted him, Saint?
Roger Moore.
Yes, back in the day. And when it became the Return of the Saint and Ian Ogilvy took over, what was he driving?
Was it an XJS?
Yes, he was in the Jag. So I was doing my homework, I was looking through a lot of stuff. So the Saint had the P18, the Return of the Saint had the Jag. Mr. Bean, the Mini, of course,
yeah,
very famous. The driving from the roof that day, it was hilarious. Mad Max, he had the Ford GT Falcon. I'm going to ask you an odd one because most people won't even remember this. Dempsey and Makepeace, can you remember what they drove?
No.
Well, he drove a Mercedes SL and she drove an Escort Cabriolet convertible. And there's obviously the Batman. It was one of the famous ones back the 60s. Can you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was something like a Chevy Impala, wasn't it?
No, according to the research, it was a Lincoln Futura concept. So now, this is one you will remember, and this was one of the first cars when I saw it. I just fell in love with it, and I still have never got driving one. And if anybody's got one, give me a call. I want to drive one before I pop my clogs. And it was Magnum PI, Tom Selleck.
Oh, yes.
Can you remember it?
Yeah, Ferrari 308 GTS.
Yes, exactly. Now, did you know? Here's the nice bit about it. I didn't know this until lately. When they were going to make Magnum the TV series, Tom Selleck was 6'4" or something. He's quite a tall guy. And originally they had wanted to use the Porsche 928S back then, which was a lovely big V8 Porsche car, which really didn't do that well. It seemed to fade into insignificance, and the 911 still here. But when they got the Porsche on site, Tom Selleck was too small, too big. The car was too small for him, and he was getting the head bumping about on the roof, which wasn't good, obviously, for the hair back in the days. So they asked Porsche, would they make a convertible version for the program, and they wouldn't play ball. But Ferrari was making the 308, and they were making a convertible version, and they then offered the car up for the movie, and the rest history. Ferrari took it. And even the new Magnum series, there's a new Ferrari in it, convertible. So Porsche missed out greatly on being the car of that. So, well, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang goes without saying. It's a one-off. We've even got a video of it, so look it up. Miami Vice, can you remember what they used?
Ferrari Daytona.
No, Ferrari Testarossa.
Oh, Testarossa, was it?
So, and well, the big movies cars would have been probably Fast and Furious. So we all got the RX-7, the Supra, and many others. So now, the Cannonball Run, can you remember it as a movie?
Yeah.
There was quite a few cars in it.
And the one that Firebird? Pontiac Firebird?
I think that probably was in it, yes. Could have been. I've wrote down a list of them, but probably the opening scene was the one for me when they had the black Lamborghini, and then they took it in and washed it, became white or something. So they had the Mitsubishi Starion, whatever way you say it, the Lambo Countach, the Subaru hatchback, Chevrolet Monte Carlo, they had a Rolls-Royce Shadow, Ferrari 308, they even had a DB5 in it, and quite a list more. So you can look that up anyway. It was just full of cars driving in a race across the states. Herbie, can you remember what Herbie was?
Yeah, the Beetle.
The Beetle, yes, quite famous. It's been going since late 40s, isn't it?
Yeah,
early 50s. The Dukes of Hazzard.
Something American, a Charger, I think.
The Dodge Charger, the General Lee. You'll remember this one, Bullet,
Oh yeah, Ford Mustang.
the big Mustang. Yeah, it was super duper big car at the time. What else have we got here? Oh, here's wrong page. On to this one. So, questions for you. Love this because there's plenty of them. Bond, James Bond. How many cars do you think he's actually drove? Different cars. Most people imagine it's just the DB5 Aston Martin.
No, because he had a Lotus Esprit, I remember, with Roger Moore.
Yes, he had, well, I wrote down a list. He actually had the Lotus Esprit in 2 movies. And one was this, The Spy Who Loved Me, the Lotus Esprit. That was the one, I think, where he came out of the sea with
the
white one. And then For Your Eyes Only, the Lotus Esprit Turbo, where he had the skis on it.
Yeah, I preferred that one.
Yeah. But one of the worst cars to take out in snow, obviously. They maybe towed it up the hill for the movie. He also drove in Live and Let Die. He drove a Chevrolet Impala, which I didn't know. No. I didn't realize. You usually just think of him in the Aston Martin. So, Never Say Never Again. He drove a 1937, I think, or 31 Bentley 4.5 litre drop head coupe. And I don't even remember that car in the movie. Okay. But Diamonds Are Forever, he drove a Mustang Mach 1 fastback. Quantum of Solace, he drove a DBS. In GoldenEye, he drove a BMW Z3. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was, who done that one? Can you remember?
I think that was Pierce Brosnan.
No, George Lazenby.
Oh, was it?
In 1969, apparently. And he drove a DBS back then. So it must have been one of the older models of that Inspector. He drove a DB10, and the bad guy in the Jag was a CX-75 Jag, the great race along the waterfront. You Only Live Twice. This is one of your favourite Toyotas.
Oh, Toyota 2000 GT.
Again, the roof had to be cut off it for Sean Connery because he was too tall to sit in it. So, but it was a beautiful car, and there's talk of it making a comeback. So it was a super looking machine. What else have we got? Tomorrow Never Dies. Pierce Brosnan. He drove a BMW 750. And in The World Is Not Enough, he drove a BMW Z8. Now, what was the first car to drive in the first Bond movie, Dr. No?
DB5.
No, it wasn't. The first car you see him in is a Sunbeam Alpine.
Oh, gosh.
First of all.
That's right, in the mountains.
Yeah. Which was a sweet looking little car. And Goldfinger was obviously the DB5. Now, there is more, but that was what we listed wrote down. So he had a lot of interesting cars. Yeah. Even, was it Roger Moore drove the broken up Renault?
That's right.
What one was it now? It was.
Oh, well, that was one of his last ones.
Yeah.
But I do remember also.
He drove an Alpha in some one of them as well, didn't he? When he was in the circus, he pinched an Alpha.
Yeah, they haven't been stuck on any single car.
Well, the most.
Apart from the Aston Martin.
The Aston Martin seems to have been the most
driven.
And the last ones with Daniel Craig seemed to be the Aston Martin was the car of choice for
Mind you, I remember Daniel Craig driving the new Ford Mondeo when it first came.
Yes, when he came into the hotel.
Yeah, that's it.
And then he won the DB5 in the card game or something.
Yeah.
So, yes. But they seem to have kept very much to the Aston Martin because of it. Reason being, it was sort of the upper class gentry drove the Aston, so therefore Bond had to have one. But he has had quite a choice of cars. So, any other ones? Can you remember, like TV series? What about Bodie and Doyle?
Bodie and Doyle with the old RS 2000 Escort.
Capri.
And Capri 3 litre.
And what did old Cowley drive, the boss?
I can't remember. Was it Jag?
The big Granada or Consul or something.
Oh, right. Yeah, it might be.
I think they were all Fords in it. There's quite a few others. TV shows
that made cars famous.
Yes,
and and you think how many sales did those companies get as a result? Yeah,
And you wonder if it really improved it, or did the film just improve because of it,
yeah,
because of the car? It's
yeah,
hard to know.
yeah.
But certainly Aston Martin didn't take any bad signs from being in the Bond movies. It seems to have really kept them at the front
Yeah,
of things. But the likes of Miami Vice and Magnum PI has definitely kept Ferrari's picture up there.
yes, it has.
Uh,
But the good side, I mean, things like the professionals with the Ford uh, Escort and the Capri, that definitely did help the sales of those vehicles. So, TV advertising in a passive way by being in a movie definitely helps.
and what about the old Sweeney? They always seem to see the
Oh
bad
yeah,
guy
the
in the
old
big S type
Granada.
Jag.
Yeah, that's it.
He
Yeah,
seemed to choose it for
yeah,
the
the
getaway
baddies always had a
vehicle,
Jag.
something reliable and comfortable to get away in, which was probably
How
were
it
a great
was.
car back in the day, and they had plenty of power.
Mm.
There's no point in taking an 800cc Mini or something back then because you couldn't get away. So, what other cars can you remember from
Well, remember the
TV?
Rockford Files?
Yes.
That was a 70s show, and that was a Pontiac Firebird, Esprit.
What was I was looking there the other night, took the kids to the cinema, and seen there's a new movie coming out, The Fall Guy. Remember that? Was it Lee
Mm.
Majors with the
Mm.
Fall Guy with the
Mm.
truck and the
That's right.
spot lamps in the truck, big Ford truck or something, obviously. But I always thought it was a real good looking Jeep back in the
Yes.
day, or four-wheel drive, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It really looked the part.
Yeah.
As far as other TV shows, there's a lot of them sort of just faded away, isn't there? But
Well, these days it's the movies, isn't it? You've got
yeah,
Jason Statham with his Audi A8.
yes, he made Audi big in the
Yeah.
what was them series
Transporter.
Transporter. Yes,
Yeah.
there's 3 or 4 of them movies come out. But the first one was it. The original one was a BM, wasn't it? And then he went to the Audis.
Might have been.
I think the first movie got the BM wrecked, and then finally even into the
There was a
Audis.
BM in, yeah, he did have a BM and it got wrecked. But that seems to be the sad death of all these cars, doesn't it?
And yet the funny thing is, in them movies, they tend to use a big saloon family car for the race about thing, rather than something sportier. I don't know why that is. Maybe you could get more people in the boot in the big car when you're transporting them about.
Yes, yeah. But I think, I mean, what was your favourite car out of all these?
Oh, probably I gotta say, probably Magnum. That old Ferrari was one of the best. Well, the Persuaders, they had the Ferrari Dino
That's right.
in it, Roger Moore and Tony Curtis, and I really love. I think the Dino's a fantastic looking car. Probably one of my favourite Ferraris. Between it and the early Magnum one, it was either or would do me.
I must admit, now that you've brought up the Persuaders, I always loved that Aston Martin DBS.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the best looking Aston Martins ever.
Speaking of Aston Martin, now they made some absolutely super looking cars, and they made some dogs
Yeah.
of a machine. And do you remember the one they made? Was it the Lagonda? One big sloping
yes.
nose down. It was
Yes.
all electronic back in the
4-door.
day.
Yeah.
And it was meant to showcase all the new things like push button, this, that, and the other, but really didn't
No.
take off, and it was far too expensive, and far too expensive to repair as well. The electronics alone, it was the price of normal cars. It was scandalous, but it was a good looking big car and really futuristic
Oh
looking.
yeah, very.
But
yeah.
I think that's where it ended. The good points.
It's interesting how the designs from that era have actually, in the main, they still look good. A lot of them from that era still look good, and with what we're getting today, which is pretty much the same old style, isn't it? There's got to be a revolution in car design, and I know we're moving away from saloons and sports cars to SUVs, but even so, there is still a market out there for saloons and sports cars. Certainly.
Do you think now in this last 20 years they seem to have got, what can you say, just boring in their style for this last while, but now they're starting to, like that new 2 Series BMW.
Yeah.
It's starting to really look
Someone's got a
menacing
bit
and
of
sporty
interest
look.
back in it.
Yeah, something to catch your eye rather than just this plain looking
Yeah,
signs that we're doing.
yeah.
So
Because before, in the say from the 70s to the late 80s, if you bought a car from the same manufacturer, you could tell it was a GT for some special reason from the standard car. You couldn't actually do that today because they all look the same, don't they?
very little difference.
Very little difference. You've got to really look hard to see what is, different.
Because they're mostly subtle in some wee way that you've got to.
I'd always want a car that stood out. If I bought a GT, I wanted everyone to know I had a GT version.
Yeah, because you didn't want somebody with a plain L
Yeah.
looking the same as a GT because you went and spent all that extra money to get nothing different. So you wanted more power or more looks or more something. But yeah, I think styling got seriously boring for a while. But thankfully, the likes of what we're talking, these movie cars, Aston Martin still lately is, how would you say it? They've still got style and improvement.
Yeah, still.
And yet they do look similar.
Mm.
But it's enough of a difference to tell that it's something bigger or
and it
better.
would stand out in the car park.
Yeah. But sadly, it's like for a long time there, if you had a 3 Series and a 2 Series in a car park, not far apart, they looked very similar. Couldn't really tell.
And to be fair, today the 2 Series is the size of a 3 Series. So the latest ones.
What is going on with companies that they have to make a wee car big?
Yeah.
Even
the Vauxhall Corsa is now the size of a what used to be an Astra.
Vauxhall Corsa? You say?
Yes.
Do you remember it when it was a Nova?
Oh yeah.
And then it became the Corsa. But as you say, now it's an Astra now, really, isn't it?
Really it is, yeah.
But it was the same with the Polo. Sure, the Polo is.
Oh yeah, it's a Golf. Isn't it?
It's a Golf with a different set of boots on
it. Yeah. So I don't know why they've chosen to do that because I don't know, they've lost the market that they were in.
They then had to turn around and make a new small car.
Yeah.
And their small car now is their big car. So then the big car that they had to do away with because everything's pushing itself on. Yeah, there must be some reasoning behind that, but I don't see what it is. No, I prefer this. If you made a small car, make it small, and it's a fun car. But then when it got big, it lost all its fun. So you wanted to get a wee one again, just to go back and have that smile factor. Yeah. It's like the Mini now. Sure, the Mini's far too big. The Mini is now a maxi or a biggie. Yeah, it is. It's a big car. Yeah, it's not a small car. It's not a Mini. No. As we know. Look up the word Mini. See what it means. A mini skirt never went to your ankles. Yes. So what other cars can we remember from movies that stood out? What about Ghostbusters? Yeah. The big car they used for the Cadillac estate or something. So it was a hearse or an ambulance or something originally, and then they turned it into the Ghostbuster mobile. But it was a big, chunky car. Huge. But then it was for a different purpose. It wasn't for racing around in. And then there was old Smokey and the Bandit. Do you remember him? I watched it the other night. Yeah. It was Trans Am, was it? Yeah. You kind of wonder what the purpose of the movie was, where he just drove that car the whole way. There was no purpose to the movie, it was just fun. When you actually look at it again, you think, why did you make this movie? Yeah. But at the time, it had Burt Reynolds in it, and that made it famous. Yeah. Everything went well. And then you had the John Thor, wasn't it? Who used it in Inspector Morse. Yeah, the Mark II Jag, which I believe was his own. It was a 2.4. Yeah. They were a nice big car. Yeah. A big gentleman run around car. Yeah. Even the 2.4 was nice. And it's still nice, isn't it? Yeah. Just to bumble around in. But it was just a Jag back then was a poor man's Rolls Royce, wasn't it? You could sort of afford a bit of luxury and comfort. Yeah. And not quite. Yeah. But it performed far better than most Rolls Royces. They were so sluggish and wallowy and they were just they were built for straight roads, I think. Yeah. Don't put this thing around a corner and roll. A very comfortable big car, no doubt. But I just thought they were so slow themselves, those big original. Forgot a driving one, and honestly it went so smooth and comfortable. It was like just sitting in an armchair, but You were thinking, my goodness, there's a snail going up the road quicker. You had to. There wasn't a lot of life in them, but they were really a big.
And yet they had a V8 sitting in the
Yeah,
front, didn't
that's probably why they lasted so long. They never got worked,
they?
never
No,
got overworked
no.
because they never went fast.
Yeah. Didn't have to, did they?
When you love to pull one out and spot a small car and make it rev right to see what it could actually do,
But it would be different.
it would certainly be different. Back to the old Mini, Mr. Bean, he probably made it quite famous with that silly scene where he got in the roof in the chair and
Yes.
drove it home with the ropes. That was quite a funny setup. Like, but,
And then you had the Trotters
oh yes, and
with their
the Robin
three-wheeler.
Reliant.
Yeah.
Oh, and the night that him and Rodney got out dressed as Batman and Robin. Yes, it was quite a machine. But as we all know, the three-wheeler car was never a good.
No. Sort of tended to
It was a
fall
straight
over.
line car only,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Turned sharp at 20 mile an hour, and you
Yeah.
were
That was
rolled
it.
over
On your
hooks.
side, yeah.
Always remember Clarkson doing that one. Where it just seemed to fit the roll it all the time. No, it wasn't. It wasn't their finest hour, so it wasn't. But any more wacky ones from back? Any more?
Well, the DeLorean.
The DeLorean has made its place in history with Back to the Future.
Definitely Back to the Future. And I mean, we've now been to and seen a lot of DeLoreans. I mean, they're a nice car, no doubt about it. They are a nice car. And they're definitely a good investment. But the film made them, I think it actually made them because the car itself lacked the right engine. And that's what actually failed, I think, the car.
It did lack a bit of get up and go.
Yeah.
It was lively enough. You know,
Mm.
let's face it, for round country roads, it was as fast as anything else. But it was a clumsy sort of speed out of it. Wasn't There's no
I think
excitement.
you had to work it hard to get it up to
Yeah,
that.
You needed to nearly stick the Lotus Esprit engine.
Which would have been decent, actually.
Yeah, stick a turbo on and give her a wee bit of life.
Yeah, yeah.
But the sad thing about the DeLorean was the undercarriage, where it all bolted onto the subframe, was quite weak, and it left it a wee bit wallowy. And anybody I've seen has all got these extra brackets, strengthener ones, to fit on and make it that wee bit more rigid. And apparently, it is a big, fast improvement on the going of the car,
Yeah, yeah.
which was a pity because it was such an iconic car and it really did look the part. Like, what's this, 40 years later, and it's still
a good looking car.
a good looking car, and anybody that sees it knows what it is.
Yeah.
The Gullwing doors, they really made it. I'm going to look someday into all the cars that had Gullwing doors. Where did they start? Do you remember?
Mercedes,
wasn't it? The SLK?
Yeah.
Way back in the 60s or something.
Yeah.
Started.
Yeah. That's the first one I remember, anyway. But and that was just so startling back in the 60s.
But there's been so many innovations in doors alone. Like the first time I saw the Lamborghini with the door going up,
oh, that's right,
that was just so impressive. So it was, because you didn't have to worry how close you were parked. You could get in and out within that distance. Although they weren't a great car for reverse, and you had to sit out and look where you were going. What else? They call that guy the name's escaping me now. His door's like a Lamborghini, but it goes out and comes up. It's like a different mechanism, but it still ends up upright. And Gullwing, and then the SED 3 BM, or was it the SED 1, where the wee door dropped down into the sill?
That's right, yes.
That was quite innovative.
Yes. They haven't been that, when you look at doors on cars, they haven't really tried too hard, manufacturers. They're just quite happy to go along with what they've got. And it is one of the most difficult. I think if you can keep the door to the car as close to the car as possible, A, you're not going to hit anybody else, and B, it gives you the chance to get out of it. Because
let's face it, car park spaces now is too small for the modern car. The modern car is much bigger now, and you open your door to all, you're very easy to bang the car beside you. So yes, that's where I like the up doors, or even the sliding ones that went back. They were quite good. But I think manufacturers should look at a different type of door, even from the point of view where you just open the door and the wind catches it and slaps it around into something else. It's quite annoying. So I don't know, is there a better mechanism we can have, like it comes out and slides or
Well, there
up
surely
down?
must be by now. I mean, we must have the technology.
It seems to only be the sporty cars have the.
But yeah, that's the only ones they play with. Everyone else has to suffer the hardships of.
That's maybe because most of them's only 2 doors anyway, so you've got nothing else.
It's easier.
You know, the back door, you can't slide the front door behind in the back door for then. But I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what kind of designs doors come up with in the future.
I don't suppose you can do too much with an SUV. I don't know, you could make it sliding.
Well, yeah, but again, it's for a different purpose. It's sort of for getting about and maybe off-roading, but it's now become the Chelsea tractor, as they call it. It's become everybody's form of transport almost now. So we don't know what way it's going forward. It seems to be the big popular thing at the minute, but will that change or?
Well, I don't think it will last forever because it's cumbersome, it's heavy on fuel, and even if they put it into an electric car, electric versions. I'm not convinced that electric versions will prove useful because surely the range is going to be shorter.
Well, even to that side, if you take an SUV, or what it's really made for is being able to go off road as your luxury or enjoyment or business. I can't see battery packs lying down the floor, going over rugged rocks, and maybe coming down on a stone and puncturing a battery. I don't see it as a good.
No,
you need to have the battery somewhere else, wouldn't you? You need them actually up in the cabin or something. So I don't know if SUVs is going to be able to go electric and be an SUV. They're only going to be a big car driving over a tennis court or something. But don't see them doing any rugged farm hill work as such.
No.
So, yeah, you've got a horses for courses. So on the movie cars again, where we started off and we digressed ever so slightly like Ronnie Corbett does. But what else can you think of from the movies that caught your eye as a
well, not so
car?
much movies, certainly another TV series springs to mind. The Prisoner with the Lotus 7.
Yes. Always found it a funny program. It didn't seem to make a lot of sense, but
no,
I
don't think it was ever meant to make sense.
No.
I think it just, but he did have a nice Lotus 7 that I think he actually admits in the show he built it himself.
All right,
it was a kit car, so he put it together.
Well, one of my favourite movie cars, an old movie, probably I'm going to say back in the 80s or something, we had Good Guys Wear Black, Chuck Norris, and they drove around in a black 911 Porsche. From memory, it was a white body, and I just thought that looked amazing on car. It really was, back in the day, a good-looking motor. I suppose it was something you aspired to have, but at least now Porsche's still going, the 911 is still going, and it still looks pretty much
the same
in keeping with what it was, just slightly different.
Shows
detail.
What a good design that was.
Yes, it's just kept improving, which is nice. Whereas most manufacturers just go a few years and then change the model altogether. But they've kept good to their roots, which is nice. And then they basically make the SUV now as well, and they're going electric too, like every other manufacturer. Don't know. This electric is just still a big what if, isn't it?
Yeah, question mark over it.
Still,
I think it will be there until hydrogen finally comes in. They get all the issues that with hydrogen sorted.
Yeah.
And then I think you'll see, I think electric cars are going to be okay for cities.
Yes.
Where you can get charge points, because in the rural areas, they just haven't got the range. And people are going to eventually start getting stuck, especially in snow when the weather is, really rubbish.
Yeah, because the cold weather, they say that you lose a big percentage of your battery because of the need for the heat and everything else that's on. Summertime, obviously, it doesn't need as much stuff. So you're not wearing the battery as quick. I don't know how much it loses, but some are saying it loses up to 30%, maybe more, which is 30% of your range is quite a bit, especially if you're
Yeah.
get a tank of fuel and you're going 600 mile in that tank.
Yeah.
30% is quite a distance.
Yeah.
So it's hard to beat the old convenience of the fossil fuel, should we say,
Yeah.
as they call it.
Yeah.
But then they told us by the year 2000 it was going to be done anyway, and
Yeah.
we're still here.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, if you're as old as I am, I can remember in the 60s that we were told, there's only 20 years of fuel left in the whole world.
Mhm.
Now, I was in school at the time, and I can still remember being told that and think, hang on. They
So
got
now
that one
60
wrong.
years later, we've still got
we're
fuel
still,
and we've still got a supply.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's telling lies out here, do you think?
How long have they been doing it? You know? And what else?
Yeah.
But
So
I think you have to take a lot of things you're told with a pinch of salt these days.
So when you're talking about being at school back then, what was your first car when you left school? What did you drive?
First car was a Ford Anglia 100E.
Oh,
Yes.
sporty old you, eh?
Yeah. I put chrome. I remember fitted on chrome headlights, which was showed it was at the top of the range if you had chrome headlights. The best thing about the old 100E was not the best thing, but the most noticeable thing about it was the faster you went in the rain, the slower the windscreen wipers got, until they virtually, if you got to 60, if you were lucky, they stopped.
They couldn't force themselves through the wind.
They couldn't move at all. So and wouldn't move at all. So you had to make sure that you did 30 miles an hour to keep the windscreen wipers going.
And how much of a tailwind had you doing 60?
It was a big one. It was a big tailwind.
Who was pushing
in those days? Gosh, and it was an interesting car, the old 100, because it was a 4-seater. It was 2-door, the one I had, but it was. I think we got it for 60 quid. Which you think, God, that was flipping.
If the same car was here now, 60 quid wouldn't buy it.
I don't think you'd buy the headlamp with that. But
probably not.
Yeah. But it was, no, and it lasted well until it caught fire one day as I was driving through Pall Mall or something, and the exhaust, because I put a big bore exhaust on it, because I thought, hey, stick a big bore exhaust on it, give it another 20
get me noticed.
But all it did was catch fire. So and I quickly left it in the middle of the road in flames. So that was my first car that I actually owned, and then came a Mini, and that was great. Had a great deal.
They were such a fun wee car, weren't they?
Yeah, and it was a 1000cc Mini, so it wasn't just your 850.
Oh yes, yeah. Not the 60 time.
It was about
24
seconds, 25 seconds. It wasn't bad. He got there.
You got there the same day.
Yeah,
that wasn't so bad.
And it did 86 miles per hour.
86.
Yeah, I had 86 miles per hour out there with 3 up.
Ooh.
The Mini was a great little car, and it was good on petrol. So as a youngster, it was.
It's funny you mentioned your first car was an Anglia and your second was a Mini, because the first car I learned to drive in the field was an Anglia, and the second car was a Mini. Right. So we've done our little talk on movie cars, TV cars, stuff like that, however we started. So been a good look down memory lane, and if you know of any other cars, please let us know. I'm sure there's lots more, and we'll have another chin wag some other day. What have you to say now, Robert?
Yes, that was entertaining. It took me back to a time that I didn't realise
has gone
by.
Slipped away.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, but thanks for watching, and catch us next time.
Bye.